All right, everybody, welcome on back here. Closing things out here for the week, Friday afternoon, shortly after 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. Welcome on back here for our afternoon meeting. Let's get a quick sound check to begin. Make sure everyone can hear me loud and clear. As Friday, October 9th, for the recording at least. Great to see everybody. Michael, Greg, Jose, Bonnie, great to see you all. Debbie, Leda, Chuck, Daniel, tailing on in right away after. Great to see you guys as well. All right, perfect. Loud and clear, perfect, most importantly. So let's hop right into it. SOL, nice push up heading into the end of the day here. So, we were calling this out at least after the market had opened up. I don't know, is this on the morning watch list? I had my focus on Plug, the VVPR trade, of course, from earlier on today. No, this stock was not on the main CTU morning watch list, but shortly after the open, at least, we ended up seeing Fausto call this one out. And from there, it made a nice gradual push up. So zoom out on the chart to begin, but right after the open, pushed up nicely from roughly 315 up towards just about 340-ish. Volume really died off from there, so we took our eyes off it for a bit. But, I mean, hey, nice pop going into the afternoon. Looks like a lot more volume coming in right from 2 p.m. Eastern time onwards. So heading into the final hour of the day, I don't have my book map open up for this stock in particular. Take like a minute or two for me to open it up, so I'd rather just go right to the volume bars here. A lot of volume being filled, traded at 368 in particular, 368, 370 up. Here we go, a little pop back up to 372. 5,800 share order on the ask, at least I saw there. So perhaps maybe if this could break over just even this high here, 372-ish, 375, just the top that you see on the chart, perhaps from there we'll see this make the stronger push higher into the afternoon. Let's take a look on the volume bars here from 2:21 Eastern time at least. Yeah, you can see the pop 10K print right at that 368 I had referenced, but otherwise pushing up some yellow even coming in 374, 375. It looks like it was holding 75 pretty nicely on the chart, at least from here. So whether it's 72, whether it's 75, keep an eye on that top heading into the afternoon for the SOL. I want to go right to VVPR. We're going to put this on our watch list just to begin here, folks. All right, so we're going to hop over to VVPR, of course, though. That was our big runner from this morning. So VVPR is still up 62+%, but really just dumping off at this point. So we're not as keen to put this on our watch list for the afternoon, typically. These pump and dumps, or at least for a stock that ended up making a big push earlier in the morning, we would expect for it to kind of exhaust out or not do as much, or even worse, just totally dump off heading into the final hour of the day. I'm going to copy and paste the news for all of us, and especially those on social media right now, Facebook Live, YouTube, VVPR, just the news. Well, we were kind of joking about this actually a couple weeks ago. Anytime you ended up seeing the phrase electric vehicle, EV, in the headline, it would end up leading to a big pop, big move up. We've seen all these stocks of late. Well, hey, VVPR shares trading higher after the company announced its executive signed a definitive agreement to acquire 51% of a light electric vehicle company named Tembo ELV. I get that right. Well, nonetheless, I mean, ended up seeing the stock explode after the market opened up, but much like we see for a lot of these stocks that pump up, like I had said, they'll dump back down, but it's not even that. For the time seeing the stock get halted on the way up, the first time a stock gets halted on the way up, it's not guaranteed it's going to continue moving up, but it's a little bit easier to trade compared to the second time it gets halted on the way up, or the third time it gets halted. The more and more it gets halted on the way up, it makes for a much more difficult trade. So from here, at least after the first halt, it continued to move up that much more. I wasn't in this trade at that point myself, but at least it gave you time to get out as it continued to push up higher. Nonetheless, though, started to dump back down. And what I'm referring to here is this. I mean, the gap down, when it ends up getting halted on the way down, when it reopens up, at least afterwards, I mean, usually it just leads to a bigger drop. So, this is certainly not the type of stock you would hope to hold on to throughout the whole day. At least, once the volume begins to die off, you have to expect the momentum to die off with it thereafter. So, yeah, I mean, for the afternoon, unless if you could short it, I'd say, that would be a much better opportunity on this trade in particular heading into the close. But definitely a good stock to keep on your list. Maybe next week, maybe the week after, we'll see it make another, big squeeze back up. Speaking of, I mean, one of our students, Andrea, called this one out just earlier in the afternoon. And doing this for as long as I've been doing it, I've been doing this with Fausto and CTU for 6 years now, actually, this week. You tend to see the same stocks run, time after time, right? Whether it's off of news or short covering, a short squeeze. This MARPS, MARPS, I have never seen this symbol trade before. So one of our students, Andrea, called it out, rightfully so. I mean, this thing was exploding right around 1:45 or 12:45 Eastern time, heading into 1 o'clock. So for what it's worth, it was pushing up greatly. The spreads were pretty tight. The liquidity was fairly good on the book at the time. But knowing that I haven't seen this stock run in the past, and it's not a new IPO, so to say, the first thing I looked at was the volume average here. And you see the volume average, like here, this yellow number. That means that across the last 50 days, this stock has been trading on average 121,000 shares. Guys, that is like piss poor. That is really bad. I mean, we normally look for stocks trading at least 500,000 shares just at this point in the day, like here right now. So that led me to ask, well, that's including today. I mean, that 121,000 share, that's including today's big spike. Before today, how much volume was this stock trading per day? 20,000 shares. 20,000 shares. That's it. So talk about, low volume, talk about low float. For the amount of times this gets halted on the way up, and even if it doesn't, I mean, I don't think this got halted on the way down, but, this is a classic pump and dump here. So for as much as this squeezed up from 2, even from probably even lower here, like 150 perhaps, but ended up dumping all the way back down towards where it had run up from. So got to be careful on these trades, folks. I mean, maybe I'll keep this in mind going forward since this is the first time I've ever seen this, but usually at this point, the more that you do this, you'll tend to see the same stocks run, VVPR when it took off early in pre-market today. I knew right away it was a familiar name. We ended up trading the stock going back into, I think, what was it, June time even? No, not even September, late August, early Sep. See that big pop. All right. Now, John just saying the WKHS trade workhorse. Now, that's a familiar name. Just hit my much lower, John. We were talking about this trade just before. Honestly, I'm pretty pissed right now, John. So going into this afternoon, for as much as WKHS popped and ran, I don't know what the news was on this myself here at the time. I'm going to copy and paste from Benzinga Pro. But for as much as this stock moved up, I was looking for a pullback at some point. And I was taking these losses on a half-size position, like over and over. I ended up making some money back, but on the last trade, I ended up taking a small loss. And I was waiting for a big pullback on this stock, and it just didn't come for a long while. Of course, the second I'm doing this meeting, it ends up making that drop. So there we go, John. I hope that you stuck in, or I hope that you re-enter that trade, perhaps. Yeah, we're getting our big pullback here on Workhorse down to the major support off of $26. Definitely going to put this on our list heading into the afternoon, just given the recent run up, the activity, the fact it is shortable. So, if it ended up crapping out the other way, which it started to, of course, it could have been a great short opportunity. There we go from YouTube, one of our regulars here on YouTube, RJF, saying he's short on WKHS right now. There we go. Nice. John wasn't able to get shares. John, what broker are you currently using? I'm sorry. You've told me this in the last week. Thinkorswim? Because TradeStation's easy to borrow. Thinkorswim, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, it's tough. So that will happen depending on the broker. I mean, hey, for all the times that we complain from TradeStation that they can't give us shares to short some stocks, at least this one was for us. So, it depends on your broker. Just call your broker or check to see just based on the liquidity. You could always check to request the shares. All right. So what was the news on Workhorse here? Got a headline at 8:45 in the morning. Which EV stock will grow the most by 2025? It's interesting to read, but it says traders circulate earlier Seeking Alpha report. Okay, so I guess there was just some report, probably some bullish report on seekingalpha.com. Actually, I'm going to be able to copy and paste that headline, that website for all of us here, if you want to copy and paste yourself and take a quick look. All right, so that's the article in reference I just copied and pasted for all of us tuning in live. Nonetheless, dropping back down. I feel like this will make a bounce at some point here, perhaps around the 2560-ish mark, 2575 maybe, just if it ends up holding from the consolidation here on the 5-minute. It's like 2575, actually even 2580 here. Looking for this area to hold as support coming up. All right, so guys, what we'll do is we'll go from top to bottom. I mean, including some of the other pump and dumps. We could talk about the SNMP trade early on this morning. Another one that I'm pretty unfamiliar with. Ended up pushing up early in the morning from like 60 cents all the way up to $1.50, $1.40. After the market opened, broke over and under that 150 mark and then snapped back down here. So, this is exactly what I'm talking about, right? All right, got a shout here from one of us in the chat board on OPTT. So I'll skip ahead, go to number 5, OPTT. Pushing up right now to make a new high of the day. I like to see that. Ended up dropping back off quite a bit from yesterday. Yeah, I mean, for right now, definitely going to put this on our watch list. I hope to see great continuation at this point. I hope this isn't just the end of the run. It's already up 29% from today's low, and just from how much it dropped off from the last 2 days, this is a really nice recovery, a nice squeeze up. So, if this is at the end of the run, it just wouldn't be surprising for me, at least. I mean, it's on a steady trend, so it's not as if it's moving up too fast. So, good call. We'll see if this keeps going. Now, I had a couple of chats here earlier, also a couple of shouts on Vcnx. Yeah, Vcnx. Now, this ends up ringing a bell for me more so on the daily chart, much like my JE stock, which ended up doing pretty well today. Pulled back down quite a bit, though, so I'm going to look to see where I can get out on that one coming up. But the Vcnx, it ended up gapping down, going back into mid to late September here. I don't know what the news was at the time. Probably bad, like phase 1, phase 2 trial news, but either that or like FDA didn't, accept primary endpoints, something like that. Ended up making this huge, big gap down, dropped off from that point after. Obviously, the squeeze up beginning today. Hopefully, there's more to it. So, yeah, much like OPTT, I like the trend on this heading into the afternoon, the VCNX for right now. All right, cool. We got a couple of these pot stocks and even a CBD stock in there too. IGC moved up nicely earlier on today, not doing a whole lot now. I guess you could kind of say it's near the highs, but we'll pass. Sol, already on our list. We discussed it already, kind of slowing down a bit. The volume's dying off here. Volume per minute being traded. All right, why CBD? I was calling this out after the open. It ended up pushing up a lot higher than I thought it would end up even going to. So heading into the early afternoon, topped off right around 248, 250 major resistance on the ask. Just pretty slow for the meantime here. Mdgs, another unfortunate pump and dump. This one, to me at least, just personally, this was a lot easier to anticipate the dump back down because it ended up making the big pop around like 6:30, 7 o'clock Eastern time this morning. And yet after 8 o'clock, it had that push up, but ever since was just dumping back down. So after the open, we had the push up. I didn't take part in this run, but then from there, the wheels fell off, and yeah, same thing. ACRX, yeah, still fairly active, trading about 10,000 shares per minute. NIU stock also, holding near the highs for the meantime. Let's see if there's anything trading more volume, though, than this. JKS Fausto's Jinko Solar trade. He's been watching this on the swing side. So, I mean, it's been just moving up exponentially almost at this point. Today, it ended up pushing up pretty nicely, hitting a high of 63.29. Trying to squeeze back up for right now. I mean, very active stock. So, if you have the pockets for it, then perhaps put it on your watch list. I want to find something a little cheaper. Definitely the volume is there, though. Trading about 35,000 shares per minute, that stock. Kirk, nice trend. We are pretty familiar with Kirkland. Ended up making this big, huge move up for us. I mean, pretty much across the whole months of July and August, no? This whole run up here. Yeah, Kodak ran pretty nicely earlier on this morning, or at least going into the late morning, perhaps. But holding over 10, maybe gets a little squeak back up, but this is like the king of the pump and dump, right? We've seen this stock going back into mid to late July, make this huge pump up towards like 60, dumped all the way back down. And ever since, on certain pre-market mornings, we'll make the same move up, same move back down, and over and over. All right, so a quick follow-up, guys. I just got this right now, like literally live from Benzinga Pro. I want to jump back to the WKHS trade. So really quick for all of us tuning in live, I'll copy and paste the last headline I just got from Benzinga Pro. Just said, we're Workhorse shares trading higher as traders circulate a Seeking Alpha report that said Roth Capital expects the company to win an $8.1 billion, the B, USPS contract for delivery vehicles. Well, that leads to a big squeeze up, right? So this ended up dropping off pretty quickly. It ended up pulling right back down towards my consolidation area, I think, at 25.75, 25.80-ish. I corrected myself thereafter. But yeah, it held right from that consolidation, pushing back up here. All right, so I'll tell you, I think we have our hands full already with WKHS and like OPTT and even that Sol trade. I don't see much else on the gainer side that looks that great. I mean, the market squeezed up nicely today. Doesn't mean that we're going to find a lot of, up big. Maybe NBev, New Age Beverage, but yeah, I'll hop over to the losers list. Guys, if there's anything else looking just as good, as some of these on the list so far, just type it in the chat board. Let me know quickly here. Bunch of crap, hard to borrow, as usual. We always like to say that here on the losers list. Yeah, really. Might be a clean sweep, I can just tell. GameStop, I'll look at. GameStop, pretty volatile stock. If you could short this at least. Oof, nice drop off. I was waiting for this to drop off, so I ended up missing a good chunk of this run up. So I guess I'm finally getting it. But I was more so waiting for the drop off earlier on this morning to catch the eventual bounce. So it looks like it did drop a bit, but I was waiting for a much sharper drop off immediately upon the market opening up. So, I didn't get that. Maybe I'll get that at some point soon. But at least for right now, GameStop, I don't mind just slipping on our list here. If you can get the shares to short it, looks like it's just going to continue to drop off. And then otherwise, if it does find support, it finds home around like $12, maybe a little bit lower, perhaps that could lead to the next big buying opportunity. Who knows? I'm just imagining based on the volatility, right? So for right now, I would say follow this trend at least for the meantime. All right. From William, we have OPTT Iceberg at 245. He's asking that. Let's see. Yeah, good call. At 245, you can see that on the TradeStation matrix on the right-hand side of my screen. 118,000 share Iceberg order at 245. There we go. Cool. WWR setup at 850, writes Chuck. Yeah, it's up 6+%. It already dived off so much though from like, what was it, $9.12, the high of the day at the open there. So it is perking up nicely. I like this trend heading into the afternoon, Chuck. I don't mind slipping this on our list as well. I don't really have a big list heading into this afternoon anyway. All right, cool. I think that just about does it, folks. If there's anything else, just one more time, let me know. I'll take a quick look on my Benzinga Pro Signals page here. Nothing really catching my eye right now. If there is one, I'll take one quick look at this trade here. Perhaps Solo. Pushing up a little bit at the high of the day, of course, right now. Looks like it broke over resistance, the highs over the last week on the daily chart. Some volume coming in on this trade. Lake, nah, super low volume. Not going to trade this. All right, I'll tell you guys, listen, it's a Friday. I'm not expecting a whole lot anyway, aside from what we have on this list. So if there is anything else, we'll look to call it out just shortly after, probably around 3:15, as we like to say. Typically around 3:30 Eastern time, you'll tend to see the program trading kick in, especially going into a weekend like this. You'll tend to see market makers, bigger traders tend to close out their positions or ledgers, or perhaps even open up new positions heading into the weekend. So a lot more volume being traded, at least going into the final 30 minutes of this day. All right, guys, so aside from that, I'll look to post and tweet the picks. For anybody tuning in on social media, as always, look to make sure that you guys are subscribed and notified right to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/cybertradingu. Aside from that, as always, feel more than free to join us. I'm going to take a quick break from the mic, hop back on at 3:30, and we'll see what we have taken going into the final 30 minutes of the day. All right, guys, talk to you soon.